Next up, a proud Montrealer as well, communications consultant, editor, and content creator. For the past decade, she has been working in close collaboration with entrepreneurs and their troops to help build and promote inspiring projects using the right words and images. She is now editor-in-chief of C2, a role in which she crafts the story of this unique, world-recognized conference that we all aspire to be. Please give a warm welcome to Caroline Lavergne.
Hello. This works, and it's awkward. Hello. Thank you so much for having me. Really, really excited to be here. It's the first time I'm giving a talk to my peers. I've done stuff as an alumni, but never talking about the stuff that I do and I'm passionate about to people who are also doing amazing things that I would like to know about. So thank you very much for having me. I'd like to start by saying that I'm not giving away free tickets to C2 Montreal this year. But I hope you can come. There's many ways you can get in if you work for a company or if they would like to work with you. So we have a lot of partners that maybe, Alexa's here, she works on a partnership team. I don't know if she can hook you up. So I'm going to be talking about, there's a lot of stuff in terms of content that I could be talking about in terms of what we work on at C2. The event is in a month. I can't believe I actually took time to make a presentation in this context. It's really, I'm happy to be here. I'm a little bit wigging it, but so I could be talking about all the stuff we're doing pre-event in terms of building the story of who the great speakers who are going to be coming, all the great stuff that's going to be happening. But one project that I'm really, really proud about and that is kind of always a little bit on my mind is how we capture the content of an event so that it lives on after. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on, and specifically focusing on the essential. I don't like fonts, so I just kind of wrote it down and Command I and put it on the keynote. So focusing on the essential is a little bit hard when you have so many things going on over the course of 3 days. So I was going to show a video, but it's kind of, I'm not going to spend a minute on it. It's not the minute. So there's a lot of stuff going on during C2. It's 3 days. There are about 50 conferences and panels over 2 different venues. There's 70 workshops and masterclasses, 5 happening simultaneously at any given time between 8:30 and 5. There are labs. Those are the weird images you might have seen where people are kind of walking in fog or talking on suspended in nets and stuff like that. So people are, we kind of build unique brainstorming experiences so that'll kind of take you out of context and will help you reflect on a specific subject. So there's that. There's this ongoing. We do more and more every year. And it's not just the content, it's also the experience. And same thing we do for labs. There's always this constant dialogue between the context and the content. And that's, I think, what makes C2 unique. So how do you put that together? It's one thing to be there, and it's a little bit overwhelming. I don't know if you've been, other than being at the party or waiting in line for the party. If you've been to the 3-day conference, there really is a lot going on. And if you're actually invested in doing brain dates and doing and going to the conferences and speaking to people and doing the master classes, it really can get pretty overwhelming. So I've been involved with C2 since before the first event. I was very involved the first year. I was doing social media and content. Then I got sacked as director of communications after like 3 months, but that's another story, or story for later with more wine. So, but I came back last year with more of a leadership role as editor-in-chief. But I've been kind of putting slowly my arm in the tordeur more and more in the past couple of years. So in 2012, we had no idea what we were getting into. We were doing an event at a venue that didn't exist anymore and that wasn't set up to be a venue. New City Gas before was a club. We actually opened New City Gas with this event. It made no sense. There were no bathrooms yet. 3 days before the event, there was a big gap right in front in the street. The roof was leaking. It was up to code, but barely. So it was really, really something. So the first year, we decided, okay, so we're going to be live vlogging. We're going to do all these things. We're going to be filming everything. There's going to be photographers, and we're going to get those photos out as soon as they're taken. And it was madness. It was complete, utter madness. It was really, really fun. I was in charge of an editorial team of about 12 people, 5 or 6 writers. There was one person who was putting in salient quotes from the conferences, listening in, which were fed into this algorithm that was called Synapse, that was made by somebody at Sidley Collective, through Sidley Collective. And so it was kind of showing the different quotes based on the different themes. There was a knitter stream tweeting, knitting tweets. There was a whole bunch of stuff. It did not make any sense at all. It was at least as overwhelming as the actual event. And right after the event, because we weren't tired at all, we decided to rewatch all the talks. Me and the content lead, Nadia, we decided to rewatch all the talks, and her assistant printed all the quotes that we kind of took out and cut them all up, and we spent a week trying to make sense of them on the wall and turn them into a microsite in HTML5. And we were super, super impressed that we were working in HTML5. It was kind of animated as you kind of looked at the screen. So it was kind of telling a story. I think we did a good job considering the crash that we were experiencing, but it really wasn't the most planned or I think the most efficient. It was just too much content, and I don't think anybody really got anything out of it. So I kind of wasn't involved for a few years. But they did a thing. Well, actually, right before, when I left, I was working on a book. Jean-François Bouchard, who was from Sidley, was very involved in the project. Back then, still is more and more, but it was really his baby. He decided, okay, we need a souvenir book. We need it now. It's really important. So a lot of photos, a lot of quotes, because that's really all the content that we kind of had on hand, and a few texts that already existed. But it was very designy. It's a good conversation starter for partners and stuff like that, but in terms of something that's useful for a participant, it's not really there. The 2014, they decided to do a magazine before the event. So they had an editorial director who they hired somebody from Wired to kind of write a few articles. It was actually Chris Bergeron leading that project. He did a really good job. But I don't know. It's still a thing where I don't really understand how we're supposed to, bring all this content together. And to me, it's a question of prepping people for the event, but it's also preparing ourselves to really crunch the content so that we can make something out of it after. Another initiative that was happening in terms of capturing the content in 2014 and 2015 was something called the Open Brain that defunct FN Co. were leading. So it's basically a Google Doc, and there were a bunch of people just taking notes. So we have a verbatim of 2014 and 2015. It's still online if you want to Google it, Open Brain C2MTL. At that point it was C2MTL. And with salient points and quotes, and it's actually really well done. It's actually, I really, really like that project. So the next few years, C2 all of a sudden started doing international events. I don't know if you know, but we're doing events all over the world now. That's a map, which I did earlier today. So these are cities. The heart over there is Groenland. And on the right there are four, one for each event, 4 minutes documents that I created. So when C2 started having clients or partners who wanted to do international events, they kind of wanted a bit more of the ROI. They were asking, okay, so what do people actually get out of the event? What did they get after? How can we continue the conversation after the event? I was like, hey, maybe we can do this thing. I could go to Milan, and Copenhagen, and Zurich, and maybe Amsterdam. So on the plane there, I convinced that, yeah, that's really what we should be doing. What are we doing? I will tell you once I get there. So on the plane, okay, so what is it that we really want to get out of an event, out of a talk like this one? Is it definitely key takeaways, but it's not just a summary, it's what are the action items? What can I actually do? What can I actually do about this? If I'm actually interested about this, where else can I get more information? Who else is working on this? What are those projects that she mentioned really quickly? I want links to that so that I can share with my colleagues and maybe work with these people, who knows. So they turned into this, and in terms of the format, we had no idea, I still have no idea what type of format this works best as. But basically they are interactive PDFs that are on an online reader and that are also almost ready for print. So if you want to print them, if the client or C2 wants to print them, it's not that far off to do that after. So that's the basic template. So in that nice flight, I kind of set up the basic template for the rest of it. Portrait of a dude or a lady, their name, their salient quote, quick little intro, and what are the key takeaways, little examples, and as many links as you can put in for more information, and something that you can take home. That's pretty much what it is. So C2 Montreal 2015 was coming up. It's like, hey, we could do it. Let's do it because those international events were 1 day, 100 people. It's a one-track event, so kind of follow people from like this size, about this size. It's pretty simple what the track of the event is, so it's pretty clear what people have heard. We all laughed at the same moment. We all kind of cringed at the same moment, so I know I'm not going to put that in. So for C2 Montreal, it's a little bit different because there's a lot of things happening all the time at the same time, so even if you are a participant, you will have FOMO. So how do we surf that line of, I feel like I was there, so I'm, initié. I get the inside jokes, but if I wasn't there, I'm still getting something out of it. So that's a line that we're trying to strike with this one. And we, so the minutes is something that I brought kind of as an external consultant, like, hey, I think we should do this. I brought a team together, like a senior producer, Lynn Farley, who's now at Urbania, and Isabelle Dastou, who's a fantastic art director. Hired 4 writers, and I ended up rewriting everything they did. Because I wasn't good, I didn't know how to tell them what was important. And I just rewatched the talks. I was like, no, that wasn't it. That wasn't it. That's that thing that he said. So I didn't really know how to explain that, and I still don't know. So we're doing it again this year, and Laura is here. She's our senior editor because she was there last year. She saw how it went a little bit. So we did it for last year. In 2016, I didn't rewrite everything. I wanted to. I rewrote some of them. But this year, we're trying to put in a system where we can have people everywhere, so we can dispatch people all over the site, and get the best juices out of the event and have it be an intellectual and an emotional memento. And in terms of going to the essential, that's really my quest. And I still don't really know how to get a team of 25 people to focus on the essential. But that's the quest. Yeah. Yes, another thing actually, the minutes has kind of helped, I think, the rest of our content creation process in terms of going to the essential, because now we're working on a lot more specific methodologies for content, so for hands-on sessions like workshops and master classes, for example, or specifically. And so now these methods are actually done so that throughout those 90 minutes, the participants actually digest their thinking, so they digest the content and kind of create artifacts that are readily, you can readily put them in the minutes and they already make sense. So that makes our job easier. Because I didn't tell you, but we actually published this thing less than 2 months after the event in English and in French, so 2 separate ones too. So all the content for this, really, in order for the production to work, has to be in, all of the articles have to be in the week after the event. And it's 250 pages. And there's photos and captions and table of contents. It's pretty silly, but it's really, really fun. And next year, because we're going to be first of all, and this year we're doing it twice, because we also have another event. Yeah, she's laughing now. The C2's, in collaboration with Michelin, is bringing in their formerly known as Michelin Challenge Bibendum, annual biannual international summit on sustainable mobility, coming to Montreal this summer. June 13, 14, 15. I don't know if you know the dates for C2 Montreal. That's May 24, 25, 26. So that'll be fun. To be continued. The fun thing happening, I think, in terms of the next steps for this type of content, because I don't know, this is what the minutes look like now, but people, the feedback that I get is that people actually read it online on Blue Toad, if you guys know what it is. If you have ideas for like good online readers, I'm really, really into suggestions. So people actually read them. This is also really good for when our president goes around the world and say, hey, do you know about C2? Yeah, it's really cool. So that's pretty much how it goes, I think. But he's like, yeah. Yeah. But the feedback that I get from participants is that they actually read it and they go back to it, they bookmark it, so that's really exciting. But I mean, that's really anecdotal evidence that I'm, who knows really. But I think where we're heading, or at least what I'm going to try next year, is since we now have smart badges with Pixelmob's new Click platform that allow you to create your timeline, so you can click if you like a certain moment in the event, and the thing knows where you are. And since there's a timestamp, we could potentially create your own little journal that's really curated to you based on what you've been doing throughout the event. So I think that could be really something interesting that I want to try. Again, content. But yeah, that's, I think, would be the next steps. Those are the fun little primeurs. And yeah, I'm interested in talking about all that stuff and more. And if you want to drop me a line, if you want to help us with the minutes, if you want to see me after, I also brought a bunch. So if you want to bring one home, I would be happy to give one to you. Thank you very much.